onto Facebook and LinkedIn. And Tom, I just need to tell you, I went and got my third jab yesterday, and all my mates have told me that for the first 24 hours you're fine, but it's after 24 hours it kicks in. And then you feel like a pile of doodah. So that's roughly 24 hours ago since I had my third jab. So if I fall over, Tom, you're going to run this broadcast. Is that okay?
Well, I thought it was supposed to make you feel invincible rather than make you fall over. But
we see what happens. Hello, everyone. Welcome to myself, Max McGillivray. I'm editor-in-chief of Beanstalk Global. We've got the great Tom Bradshaw, NFU Vice President on. Tom, say hello to everyone.
Good afternoon, everybody. Great to be with you.
And Tom, where are you today with that gorgeous backdrop, please?
So I'm in Stoneleigh today, where our HQ is based on Stoneleigh Park. And so we've had the Joy of Policy Board this morning discussing a whole range of subjects, from beaver reintroduction through to water, the AHDB and everything else that goes with it.
Just to date myself, do you remember the old NFU offices in London?
I don't actually know, but I know where they were, but that predates me.
Yes, I don't know why I always think about it. The toilets there were magnificent. It was like a Victorian building, but totally non-suited to purpose. And so it was a great idea, as the NFU did, to relocate to Stoneleigh rather than being in central London. But Tom, let's get on with this, and let me just give a bit of background, especially for those people on the podcast as we stream live to Facebook and LinkedIn and to YouTube. Tom and I, we bumped into each other at the recently held National Fruit Show in Kent. And we had several requests on the back of the interview that Tom and I did. And I was just saying to Tom in the green room, out of all the videos, the vlogs that we did on that day, Tom was by far the most watched, probably because, no offense to anyone else, but he spoke the most sense in respect of politically where we are within the farming and the horticulture and the fresh produce sectors. So we just wanted to go again with him in a bit more of a comfortable surroundings, Tom and Stoneleigh, me in Bury St Edmunds, to gain his views, reactions as to what he's seen at the moment. And Tom's background: Tom farms in partnership with his wife Emily and his parents in North Essex, God's own country. Is that right, Tom? North Essex?
Well, it's not a bad part of the world.
Alongside the farm, they have a larger contract farming business growing a range of combinable crops across 950 hectares in North East Essex. The home farm is based around arable production, but also has diversified into equestrian and renewables. Tom has represented the NFU from local branch chairman through to chair of the National Combinable Crops Board. And Tom, we were just saying on our green room, I think you and your colleagues have to be applauded in respect of the way that you've all handled yourself and assisted the sector over the last 18 months, 2 years. It can't have been easy in the respect of it. It's just completely unsliced charity for all of us, but especially for the NFU, because you must have had such a leaning from your members for everything from advice to, oh my God, cries of help. What was it like for the NFU over the last 2 years, please?
Well, I only got elected on the 26th of February, just before the crisis struck, and we'd done a couple of weeks of induction, and then I remember driving home on the 23rd of March, and at that point in time, we'd just been asked to go into lockdown, avoid all but essential travel, and I mean, my first reaction was that we were going to have 10 members of staff on our equestrian business that we were going to have to make redundant, because at that point we didn't know anything about furlough, we didn't know anything about any government support. And so that was sort of, I guess I had my day job being a farmer, and then I have my NFU vice president role. And so then you're sort of thinking about the impact for those 10 families and those people. And then you're just like, wow, what else happens on the back of this? And I think we know that sort of half of the meals are eaten out of home. And so suddenly seeing the out of home market shut down overnight just gave us a huge replumbing exercise to do. It was never that there wasn't enough food, but it was just that the food was in the wrong places and going into the wrong supply chain. So we had dairy farmers pouring milk down the drain, but we had no shelves were empty in the supermarkets. And it was a case of, how do we get product that was supposed to be destined for the out-of-home market into retail? You know, government changed competition law so that retailers could work together. And there was just an absolute urgency right from the top of government to do anything they could to try and make sure that supply chains functioned. I think it was the first time that they'd realized just how fragile our just-in-time supply chains could be. And look, we all saw, I mean, it's the first time in many generations, and for a lot of people watching this, it will be the first time that you were never able to buy something that you wanted. You know, all the way through my life, if I've wanted it, And it sounds, we've been able to have it. We've been very, very lucky. But if you go back to that last week of March, if you wanted loo roll, you couldn't get loo roll. If you wanted milk, you couldn't get milk. And actually, it's the first moment that people have had to think, well, what do I need? What can I live without? And where can I get it from? Yeah. And so I think, very, very unique circumstances. And from an NFU perspective, we probably never felt we would see another time like that, Max. It was all hands to the pump, working ridiculous hours as anyone does to try and get through what was an absolute crisis at that moment. And then suddenly where we find ourselves today, I genuinely think that the supply chain is just as fragile now as it was then. But the problems we've got in our supply chains today are systemic. They're not something that can be solved by a replumbing exercise. If the supply chain breaks before Christmas, then it will be significant. It's because there's not enough labor. It's because there's not enough haulage capacity or shipping capacity or whatever it may be. And there's actually no quick fix for that. So whereas before at the start of COVID, it was about replumbing, if we get to the point where the supply chains aren't coping before Christmas, there's no quick fix.
Yeah. So on that basis, Tom, are you and the NFU worried about that supply chain for the short, the medium term?
Look, we're worried about you having choice, or the customer having choice, because as like I said, we've always had choice, and we take it completely for granted that whatever we want to buy will be available on the day we want to buy it. And we're already seeing, if you go into retail at the moment, there's already plenty of examples where you can't buy what you want, whether that be one famous brand of crisps that Gary Lineker is associated with, or whether it be some of your fresh fruit and vegetables, which actually there are supply chain blips at the moment. Yeah. And so we are already seeing it. But the real question is how significant, how serious does that become in the build up to Christmas, which I hate to focus on Christmas, but ultimately it's been a key driver for government. Yeah. And we know that retail is just so busy in that fortnight in the run up to Christmas. And, it will be very interesting to see how it copes.
Yeah, I think I might have used this expression when we met up at the National Fruit Show, and I think I stole it from internally from government, that the government is very worried that we are but 4 missed meals from anarchy. So go back to March of, I forget how many years now, 2020, when there was that concern about no milk and no bread. And that concern. And yeah, I completely agree with you. And I love your expression about the replumbing exercise. It's fascinating now looking at the supply chain. And it's not just the UK. If you look at the States, we broadcast with them recently, and you look at the issues that they've got in exactly the same thing as labour haulage, but it's even more complicated because they can't get trucks out of the eastern ports because the ports there are not allowing non-unionised drivers into the ports. So it's just bizarre because you got to feed the states, but the problems are relatively simple. Tom, you can tell by me I'm very optimistic. Do you think that actually there's going to be a great learning for all of us, for the NFU, for the farmers, for the fresh produce companies, that as we get through hopefully into spring, summer of 2022, that we can make our sectors better from everything that we've learned in the last couple of years?
I think through a period of crisis, you always have to learn. And I like you would classify myself as an optimist. But I think government need to learn as well. And business has to take responsibility for what business can do. But actually, there are some challenges at the moment that are beyond the capability of business to sort. And I'm particularly thinking about the labour challenge today. I would think it was on the EFRA session that George Eustace did on Tuesday. He was saying there's 1.5 million vacancies across the economy. And yet we've got the highest level of employment we've ever had. Yeah. And one of the lowest levels of unemployment we've ever had. Now, to me, you can't fit a round peg in or square peg into a round hole, and at the moment, we don't have the level of available employees that want to work to do the jobs that we need done. And these are jobs that I'm sure I said it on that podcast we did from the National Fruit Show. These are absolutely crucial to society. Whether it be a picker in a field picking courgettes or picking greens or that sort of thing, whether it be somebody working in retail, whether it be the lorry driver, they are crucial roles that the supply chain does not function without. And I really fear that we don't have the available pool of labour that is able to or wants to fill those roles. Yeah. And the only short-term solution to that is an immigration solution. Yeah. But where we're facing ourselves today is that we seem to be looking at things through an ideology rather than the reality of the challenge in front of us. And we need to have some proactive, some positive decision making. And this is highly regulated immigration that we're looking for, highly controlled. It's not uncontrolled, it's not unlimited. You know, the COVID recovery visa would just put everyone on an even keel for the next 12 months. So you can get fill your vacancies, you can keep their supply chains functioning. And also we can keep a lid on inflation, because look, inflation is running out of control. And particularly for the fresh produce sector, anyone trying to pass that up to retail at the moment, it is proving very, very challenging. But it has to go up that supply chain.
And Tom, there was a seminal moment at the National Fruit Show that we had Victoria Prentice, MP, Head of State for DEFRA, who opened. And if you remember her phrase, and she had some pretty oh, I just got to say it, rubbishy scribbled notes, like she was in the back of her Ford Mondeo, scribbling them on the way down to the show. Or what we're going to say to these folk, and she majored on the fact that the way the horticultural sector is going to be more efficient is through robotics. And I looked at you and you're going, oh no. And she then said her piece, and everyone was very polite to her, rightly so, because it's very kind of her to be on site. And then it's not that you murdered her intellectually, but you put such a good case over as to, no, actually, this isn't the answer. We do need assistance from government in the respect of what you said. We do need labour. And I think at that point in time, at that time of that show, our Prime Minister was banging on about higher pay for higher skilled workers, but we still need people. We still need those skilled people. I don't know why I'm getting squeaky, Tom, because you agree with me totally. We still need those people in the pack houses. We still need these people in the fields, and currently we don't have them. And if we don't have them, we're seeing that the product isn't coming through to store. And then we've got that issue with the consumer. So have you seen anything happen over the last 6 weeks in government since we caught up at the National Fruit Show? Have they come out in any positive tones to assist with the visa immigration scheme?
We still don't know about next year's seasonal worker scheme, Max, which, businesses are desperate to know what the number's going to be, what the scope is. Does it include ornamentals and flowers, or does it not? Is it still just edibles? And at the moment, we just do not know what that scheme looks like for next year. Like, I think we all believe, we do believe we will have a scheme. But we just don't know what the numbers are going to look like, and we don't know why there hasn't been an announcement, because you'd think it should be quite simple to give business some clarity, some confidence, and the ability to start recruiting these people, some of whom are needed in January. Yeah, but isn't this just an endemic of the government that we have at the moment now? And I don't want to get overly political, but the fact that if you just look at everything that's happened over the last 18 months, it's been such a knee-jerk reaction to just look at the issues that the government are having at the moment in the respect of MPs and second jobs. Everything seems to be so reactive. Is there any way that we can persuade them to release, to give us this news about that scheme? Oh my God, this side of Christmas, so everyone can plan for 2022. What do you think? I'm going to be. We will know this side of Christmas. I'm sure of that. Okay. But look, we should know sooner than that. And it's just, as I say, it's a real frustration that it's become so politicized, and it's something that shouldn't be political, but it has become a real hot potato, and it's just very, very difficult for anyone to make those decisions. And I think my view on this is that at the moment we're still, or government in particular, are still looking at all these decisions through the lens of a vote that took place 5 years ago. And that vote was to leave the EU. Okay, we've done that. Let's move on. Yep. And we now need to look at the challenge in front of us today and look at what the solution is to that challenge. But while we're always looking at it through the lens of the decision that was taken 5 years ago, we're not looking forwards, and we're not making the proactive decisions that we need to looking forwards. And I think we somehow, it feels like we're at war with government to get these decisions, rather than working proactively together to look after our rural economies, to create a thriving food and farming sector which can help provide jobs, provide food, provide for the environment. And look, it's really exciting. It should be, but it just feels like a battle.
Yeah, and I keep on coming back to the City Food Lecture, and I always forget this lady's name, but she's amazing. She was a keynote speaker about 3-4 years ago from Holland. Professor, come to me, and I'm sure people listening will remember.
She was from Wageningen University, if it's the one.
Yes, and she majored on the Dutch Dutch diamond. Oh, my ear pops up. So in Holland, you have government, you have industry, and you have education, and you have this symbiotic relationship where they all work together for the good of the country, for education, for business, and for the government. And then you transfer that over to us here in the UK. We did a broadcast with Jack Ward from the British Growers and Ali Kappa from the NFU. And they were saying that that's just what we're missing. I think they use the same words. We seem to be at war constantly with the government. So Tom, for 2022, 2023, yourself and the NFU, what would you like to see from government? Or crikey, let's bring the retailers into it as well. That's going to ease things. That's just going to simplify the supply chains, give better margin to farmers and growers. For 2022, 2023, what would you like to see? Get on your megaphone.
Well, we're starting to talk about fair returns for producers, because I touched on the inflationary pressures that we're seeing. The Anglia Farmers Index showed 21.8% inflation for the year to the end of September. We know that costs of production on farm are rising significantly. Energy costs, fertilizer costs, labour costs, packaging costs, haulage costs. Everything is going up. And if we can't pass that up the supply chain, then ultimately there's no future for production. Yeah. I believe the supply chain does understand this. Unfortunately, we're still in this retail price war. But we've got to start looking at what are fair returns, what are fair margins. And I really think these retailers need to look at what their corporate social responsibility is around this area. Because actually, we have to look at slave labor and things like that, but businesses that aren't able to make a margin, at what point are they working for no return for retail? They're not throwaway comments, because it's really, really serious at a production level at the moment. But we have got to work out how we can just get these fair returns and start to leverage prices at a farm level. Then it's down to retail to set prices at a consumer level. And they're the ones that have to take those decisions. But what we know is that we will be downsizing UK agriculture if we don't start to see some action.
Yeah, spot on. We did a broadcast a couple of weeks ago with Veg Power, who are great at promoting veg production in the UK. And we had the CEO of Riverairy Produce, who farm 8,000 acres down in Cornwall, growing some of the UK's best veg. And the CEO there, he got very emotional, saying that we just can't go any further because of the lack of returns. And it's not that we are looking for huge returns. We just need a little bit more so we can invest in the future, invest in our teams, invest in the soil. And again, we seem to be, is it not a similar conversation that we're having with the government? We seem to be at war with government. We seem to be at war in some respects with the retailers, that they seem to be so uber scared about raising prices in store and scaring off the consumers. But Tom, you'll know this is a bit like the discounters deep discounting the week before Christmas vegetables. It has been shown categorically by the likes of Kantar that doesn't increase footfall. They're just throwing money off the table, and most of that has been lost to the growers. And
on that point, I do think that the one positive of the really tight supply chains at the moment is that retail may not be able to do those veg offers pre-Christmas.
Yeah.
Because the market is so tight that there isn't the spare capacity anywhere in the supply chain to deliver that extra fruit and veg, or vegetables in that case. So I think we could just see that the tightness in the market is what actually breaks that model.
Well said. Tim O'Malley, Group MD for Nationwide Produce, approximately £150 million turnover. We've had him on a lot because he's great, because he's very, very direct. And as he said, everyone, we're in our zeitgeist. We're selling more fruit and veg than we ever have done. But what other market would sell more but charge less? If it was any other sector, if it was mobile phones or whatever, they'd be charging more. Why are we such weak sellers? And you speak to other colleagues in the likes of the States and South America and South Africa, and we all, within the sector of farming and fresh produce, we do seem to be weak sellers. And I don't know if that's because we don't have brands, or just traditionally we've been very complicit. We've allowed the retailers to have what they want. But Tom, it feels now, speaking to a lot of people, that we've reached a real crunch points, and there's already a couple of veg companies that have sold or are scaling down dramatically in the last 3-4 weeks. As you sort of intimated, it's going to be a different landscape for the farming and the horticultural sectors. But Tom, should we be positive? Is if we have the likes of yourself and the NFU representing us to persuade, to lobby government and the retailers, should we be positive about 2022 and 2023?
The reason you've got to be positive is because fresh fruit and vegetable, there's no better story. Everyone has to have them. They're a great part of a healthy diet. There's something that we can do really well here in the UK and in the right parts of the country. We've got some great producers, and so look, there will always be a demand for that fresh produce. But it's got to be at the right price, and that's going. They are the conversations that I know are taking place at the moment. A lot of these negotiations are contracts for next year and things like that are ongoing. And it's a sector we've got massive opportunity for growth. I've always said if we can get water sorted and if we can get people sorted, robotics will come along. Look, robotics is really exciting, and I am genuinely excited about robotics in certain parts of the sector and in the right time frame. But it's not the solution for tomorrow. It's the solution for 5 years down the road. And as long as everyone's realistic about how quickly the solutions can come, then we can work with that. But if people believe the solutions are going to be here next year and the year after, they're going to be incredibly disappointed, and they will fail the sector.
I'm smiling because I'll WhatsApp Victoria Apprentice now, say that robotics aren't the solution for next week, perhaps in a few years' time. Everyone agrees with me, Victoria. Hopefully you agree with me and tell Boris. And just go back to that retailer side, just to give everyone, and some of you, you'll probably be aware of this anyway, a bit of an understanding that the retailers, they seem to be leaning on industry experts to get a gauge as to inflationary pressures and what the retailers should actually be doing. So I've never come across that before. So they're coming into the supply base and pulling on the expertise of key individuals who know both elements of it, the supply chain and the retail perspective, to see what the solution is, because the retailers know that if they don't have those growers, if those growers start growing arable or chimney pots, they're not going to have that supply for the customers, and then they're going to have an issue.
And what's really interesting here, though, is that if you think probably the last time we had inflation at these levels was 20 years ago.
Yep.
There'll be very few people inside those supermarkets that have ever dealt with inflation at these levels.
Yep.
There'll actually be a lot of people that aren't in these businesses producing that haven't dealt with these levels of inflation. And we know that one of the retailers, instead of looking at their milk price quarterly, is now looking at it monthly. Okay. And because they've seen this inflationary pressure. So there are signs that retail are alive to what's going on, and that they recognise they need the product. So I think it will happen. It's just how quickly it can happen.
Tom, it's all about communication, isn't it? It's because there's always going to be that customer supplier relationship, isn't there? But in some respects, it's almost like we all need to get into a room. They need to get into a room, and there just has to be an understanding as to what we all need to collectively do to survive over the next 6 months, so that the retailers can work on that, and likewise the growers can work on it. But I'm sure that the likes of yourself and the NFU can assist that. So now I think there are some definitely some bright lights, but I think there might be some dark days along the way. Just coming back to the robotics, there's been the announcement of the Farming Investment Fund. So that's quite exciting in the respect of farmers will be able to get a grant to look to develop the technology. Is that something that the NFUs are excited about as well?
Yeah, we've been working on it for quite a long while, and I co-chair something called the Agricultural Productivity Task Force with Tim Morden from DEFRA, which is a coalition of stakeholder groups from across the sector. Productivity is something which is, I guess, my bread and butter. It's what makes me buzz when you're back in your farming business. It's the exciting part of it. And so we really they've committed 9% of the budget. It's about £240 million a year in total that's been given to productivity spending, and so that is an investment in food production. And it's an area where government believe that we can improve our productivity. There's always a lot of arguments about this, but if you look compared to other countries around the world, UK productivity has fallen behind. So this is an opportunity now for businesses to have targeted investment, and it is very targeted. There's a list of 120 items on the Equipment and Technology Fund, but then there's also another fund in the larger grant scheme, which is looking at water infrastructure. So again, for horticultural businesses, that could be quite interesting. The grants in that one are £35,000 to £500,000, and so there will be the opportunity there for businesses to make this sort of targeted investment in improving productivity for the future, improving resource use efficiency, and ultimately resource use efficiency is another word for, for sort of carbon footprint generally. If you start using your resources better, then you're more farming in a more carbon friendly way, which is obviously a great thing to be doing as well. So yeah, there is a real opportunity. I mean, there's a short window. So the application process opened this week and it closes the 7th of January or the 12th of January for the larger scheme. And so there is a real urgency to get on and deliver. And it's an opportunity that's out there, and businesses have to match fund it. So it's 40% grants. But if you're going to make those investments anyway, then it's great to have that bit of support.
Yeah, and we'll stick the links on for that, because that's going to be fascinating. And it's interesting what you say about the carbon side and the recent COP26 held in Glasgow over the last couple of weeks. Tom, were you staggered like we were, that there was no food? Farming, agriculture wasn't on the agenda of any of the 2 weeks. Did you not think that was bizarre?
It's really strange. I mean, we know that in agriculture, yes, we've got emissions, but we're really unique in that we've got we're a source and a sink. So we have the ability to store carbon, and I think it's been completely overlooked. We're seen as the problem rather than the solution. And you'll have heard a lot about methane, a lot of hot air coming out of COP and Glasgow, but there was a fair bit about methane, and ultimately that will fall to the livestock sector, which is just completely unfair. And particularly when you've got the average carbon footprint of our beef production is less than 50% of the global average, and yet they're being targeted. And the other big problem I have is that while people are being told that changing diet will solve climate change, it means they're not looking at the real solutions. It's greenwashing. And basically, you carry on living your life as you are, but if you change your diet, then it's okay. And that's absolute rubbish. Changing a diet can have a small impact, but fossil fuels are responsible for 80% of carbon emissions. And we've got to get serious about changing lifestyles. We've got to own the problem as society and recognize how important it is that we do something about it. And at the moment, I just think the messages are far too simplistic. And it gives people a really easy social conscience. Look, 2 days a week, I'm not going to eat meat. I've done my bit. Absolute rubbish. You haven't done your bit. And that's it. I think those messages are far too simplistic.
It is, and the victims are always the farmers. So my best and worst example, a couple of years ago, I posted up a picture of British grown strawberries and raspberries from Sainsbury's, and they're in their plastic punnets, and I put it up, and I got this. I hardly ever you'd be surprised by this, Tom, but I hardly ever get abuse online, probably because I'm not very attractive. But I got a lot of abuse about the plastic. We shouldn't be using plastic. And then I ended up at the typical Suffolk monosyllabic dinner party that particular night, and this lady, the host, went into me about why all your contacts, Max, they shouldn't be using plastic, and how outrageous it was. And she leaned against her Arga on 24/7, burning a hole in the ozone layer, 2 Range Rovers outside, and a outdoor swimming pool that's on for 7 months of the year. And and again, I think it's the media's it's just all consuming, isn't it? And if you want to call it false news, fake news, or manipulated news, and again, that's why we need the likes of the NFU to give the farmers such a strong voice to make people understand that actually eating beef is not bad. If anything, it's even better. So if you look at some of the processed plant-based foods that are coming through from some of the big food protagonists, all they're after is that, and they're just dressing up. Don't say crap, Max. They're dressing up over modified food as plant-based. So yeah, we need to keep that message out.
You look at a nice steak and it has 1 ingredient, beef. And you look at one of the plant-based alternatives, it has 20 plus ingredients. And I know which one I'd rather eat, to be fair. And a grass-fed steak is going to be far more healthy for me than something that's got all these ingredients that I haven't got a clue what they are. And so it's pretty simple as far as I'm concerned. But obviously, I'm just too simplistic, and I don't understand their arguments. But
are we going to always have this issue? Because you've been in so many talking shops like I have over the years about how can we promote agriculture, how can we promote fresh produce. It's always going to be difficult because the UK is basically an urban society, and the bulk of people haven't done what you and I've done and tripped over a tractor tire at 6 o'clock in the morning, and haven't seen that. They don't understand here it comes, Jeremy Clarkson. Jeremy Clarkson has shone a light on the agricultural sector and done a fantastic job for us. And how bizarre is that someone like him would actually give us a leg up, so many people would have a better understanding of our sector. It's the more that we collectively can do, that we can assist the NFU to get that message across, that farmers are good and farmers are not bad.
So the industry always feels like it's under attack at the moment. Jeremy Clarkson has done an amazing job. He genuinely has reached an audience we couldn't dream of getting to. And the best line out of the whole thing was that I've done all this for 147 quid or whatever it was. It was a pittance. And I think that just made people realize that actually it's quite challenging. And we don't want people's sympathy. We just want their understanding that, that this image of the rich farmer driving his Range Rover is actually couldn't be further from the truth. It might be asset rich, but it's certainly cash poor. But the public do support farming. And I think that annually we do a survey, and 75% of British public actively support farmers and British farmers. Yeah. So that's a really good news story. Yeah. I also think that if we can all work together to just raise the profile of the fact that agriculture is the solution to climate change, and that local sourcing is going to be really important, growing things and producing them here in the UK for the 70 million people on our doorstep generally is going to be a good thing. Okay, there might be some exceptions, but generally the less food miles that you have, the better it's going to be. Yep. And that, I sort of say it jokingly, but there's also a bit of a serious tone to it, that what could be more exciting than feeding the population while trying to solve climate change? Yeah. And that is the job that we are tasked with. Yeah. And we're going to need some pretty clever people coming in to do that. Yeah. And so I really do think that we've got a hell of a job to do, but there's no reason we shouldn't back ourselves to be a career of choice for the future, because I just think it could be an incredibly exciting time to be coming into an industry which probably has been taken for granted. But now there's going to be all sorts of different opportunities. Some of it will be food production, some of it will be biodiversity and carbon storage. But actually, I think it's a really exciting place to be.
Last week, Tom, we did a broadcast with MDS, Management Development Services. So if people aren't aware of them, they take the cream of the crop coming out of the agricultural institutions, universities, and they stick them on a 2-year apprenticeship scheme where they do 4 secondments with 4 different companies. And it's just an amazing scheme. It's been going 30 years. And Tom, what I found fascinating with there's a whole bundle of them. There's about a dozen of them on our broadcast, and half of them had never been involved in agriculture. They didn't come from a farming background. When I was at Harper back in the day, everyone came from a farming background, and we're picking up now over the last 18 months as well that people, the younger generation, want to get involved in businesses that can make a difference in the respect of environmentally on a sustainable basis. And they're not going to be doing that working for Goldman Sachs, but they are going to be doing that for all the farmers that you and I know, whether that be growing cereals, whether it be growing beef, whether that be growing fresh produce. So I'm quite optimistic, especially with the likes of MDS waving that big flag about coming into the sector, that we're going to have some really interesting people coming in. And I always mention this, Tom, where I am in Bury, St Edmunds, and a mile north of me, there's an amazing greenhouse that was constructed by a business called Low Carbon Farming. And their trick technology, Tom, is that they take the treated waste sewage from the Bury St Edmunds sewage plant, pump it a mile up to the greenhouse. They've got 7 Italian heat extractor units that take out the heat. There's excess heat in that treated sewage of about there's a 12 degrees differential. That then heats all the greenhouses and grows tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers. The the cooled sewage comes down, treated, and then gets put back into the watercourse, all treated. And so environmentally, it's brilliant for the watercourses, and it's growing some of the best tomatoes in the country. So talking about tech, if anyone's looking at this, thinking about coming into the sector, there's so many opportunities to get involved with. Yeah, Tom, so I completely agree with you. It's a very exciting sector to be associated with.
And it's from science through to business management and accounts. You can do anything in agriculture. There is no limit to the skill set or the sort of subject that you can be involved within agriculture. So there is no limit.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've got to lead you. What are you most excited about agriculture over the next 3, 4, 5 years?
I genuinely think it will be the technology development, which are going to be really fascinating. And I don't know exactly what they're going to be, but I'm sure that within 5 years, commercial scale strawberry harvesting robots, that sort of thing. I know they're being trialed on farm now, but they're not really at commercial level. But I think that sort of thing will be really interesting. Disease treatment, again, in the more intensive glasshouse sector, looking at robotics and things like that, which again being trialed now in some of the sectors is going to be really exciting. Yeah. Water use, I think there will be transformational, some of the technologies, and we've got to get better and better at our water use because it's a resource which is going to be incredibly limited. And I think water is a really interesting area where actually, again, you look at importing product from water scarce parts of the world. Yeah. And you're thinking, hang on a minute, how can this really be right that we're importing water from a country which has got water problems? And so I think that's going to be a really topical area. Yeah. And so, but I think government really do want to unlock the technology side of things. The other bit that I think they really are excited about, and we probably are nervous about trade. You'll have heard a lot about what the NFU said about trade, and our fear that the Australian trade deal was a precedent and was going to be copied with other trade deals. We've seen that then with New Zealand, and then sure enough, it's basically been rolled out again. But actually, they really are ambitious for trade. And we have countries around the world that really value the traceability and the provenance of British product. And that does give us a great story. And so there'll be some sectors, and particularly the dairy sector, where we can really look to build exports and build that story. And actually, so British farming, people say to me, why are you optimistic about the future? And I just think what we need to do as British agriculture is make sure we're the best. It means having the lowest carbon footprint, having the lowest biodiversity impact, or the best biodiversity impact, if we turn it on its head, the lowest environmental impact, and actually make sure that what we are doing, we are genuinely world leading it. Yeah. And then that gives us an amazing story to tell, an amazing story to defend British agriculture, to sell it to the public, and to build that export capacity. So there'll be some areas we'll never be exporting in. Yeah. But there'll be other areas where there'll be growth opportunity. And what we need to do is build value. And if we're building value by that export growth, if we're creating competition for retail, because actually there's an export market instead of it just going to retail, that's what helps boost value, helps bring in more cash into the sector, into the industry, and hopefully gives the opportunity for better returns. Yeah. So, I am optimistic for the future, but we are going through the next 6 months. Let's not put any sort of false hope. It's going to be challenging the next 6 months, and we've got to get through this period. And that's the messages that I really hope land with government, is that we don't want a bailout, but we do need your help to get the policy in place to enable us to be competitive. And it's really that enabling policy, which I just think is absolutely crucial. Yeah. And we haven't seen enough of yet. Yep.
But with your professional lobbying, I'm sure that you'll be able to achieve that. And Tom, thank you. That was a bit of a masterclass as to where we want to see UK agriculture and fresh produce to head. So if we can all mirror Tom's thoughts on that is going to be amazing. A question in from a chap called Terry. Could you ask Tom, the NFU has done a fantastic job over the last 18 months. What's the NFU going to look like 4 or 5 years from now?
Whew. I hope it's not Terry, who's the Director General that's sitting in the office over there. But if it is, that's a really difficult one, Terry. Thank you very much. And look, we've got to be fleet of foot. We've got to make sure that we're representative for members, that we're doing the job for them, that there'll be difficult decisions we have to make where we've got to lead. So it's not all just about representation. It's also about making sure we're creating the vision of the future and what the industry can look like for the future. I always say that our job is to create the policy framework to enable you to run competitive businesses. We will never run those businesses for you, but we've got to get the building blocks in place to enable you to run those competitive, profitable commercial businesses. And so, the industry will change, and in reality, there might be some consolidation. But we've just got to make sure that we are fit for purpose, that we're delivering value for members, and that we're creating the industry and the footprint that we want for the future and that we need. So, I don't think if we set out our stall and say this is what it will be like in 5 years' time, we'll probably be wrong, because I don't think anyone can anticipate exactly where we'll be. But we've got to accept that change is happening, change will happen, and make sure that we adapt with it. Yeah.
My first job when I fell out of Harper Adams was with the NFU as a group secretary in Chichester, and I've just seen the evolution of the NFU since then it's been great. So I'm sure it's going to be fit for purpose ongoing. How can we help you, Tom? How can we help your colleagues? How can we all collaborate with the NFU on this mission that we've all got to make agriculture, fresh produce in the UK world leading? How can we collaborate with you?
Every one of us has got a story to tell. And there'll be some businesses who take marketing really seriously and are actually genuinely selling their product. There'll be other businesses that load it over the side of a lorry and they think the job's done. And that we all have the job to do to promote British agriculture. When people say what the school should understand, well, actually, are you helping the school understand?
Yeah.
Are you in there helping with the lessons? And there's opportunities via our NFU education to be involved with that, and you get all the help that you need to be able to get involved with those lessons and teaching. So I think every one of us has to take responsibility, and the most genuine lobbying comes when it's us with the policy background or with that policy and that expertise, with our staff here working with grassroots members on the ground and having those MP meetings where the MPs looking them in the eye and they understand the pain, they understand the reality. And it's that authentic voice of British agriculture, which is what our members give us. And that's the unique thing about the NFU, is we've got some amazing policy staff, technical staff, but we've also got the membership of authentic farmers that are doing it day in, day out. That's what I am. That's what I'm passionate about, is farming. Yeah. But I feel incredibly lucky to be doing the role that I am within the NFU and trying to create this future for British agriculture. So it's I think we just all need to take responsibility and not think it's somebody else's job.
Yeah, well done, and well done for applauding your internal team. That they are, just okay to say that they are sort of the unsung heroes within the NFU farming fresh produce sectors for the expertise that they bring to all of us.
Yeah, no, we're really lucky to have some amazing people that they do the hard grind, and we're the ones that get to sell it publicly. That's the reality of the way office holders work with our team here. Is that it's detailed policy development, and then we have to sort of get the political support and do the lobbying and everything. But it's an amazing relationship, and we often hear criticism about, well, why aren't the NFU doing this? Why aren't the NFU doing that? But what I would say, if you take the NFU away over the last 2 or 3 years, who would have been making those points? Who would have been having those conversations? And so we'll never be perfect, but by Christ, I think it'd be, we've been doing a really good job at making sure that farming is front and center a lot of these discussions, which it hasn't always been, and it is now. Yeah,
we're in safe hands with yourself. 2 final questions before we wrap up. Who's this? This is Jonathan asking, is Tom going to be attending any of the upcoming events, like the potato event and also Oxford Farming Conference in the new year? Are we going to see Tom at any of these events? Tom?
I will be at Oxford, yes. I'm at Oxford for the full conference.
Excellent. And just to wrap up, this is Terry again. At the National Fruit Show, I asked you what your fresh produce was, your favourite fresh produce, and you rightly so said a lovely crisp apple, because we were at the National Fruit Show. Terry wants to know, what's your favourite colour of tractor?
That is, I'm not sure if Terry has just converted himself into a 4-year-old boy, because that would be the sort of question I'd be asked by my little boy Harry. But we have red, we have green, we have yellow. And as long as they'll give me a deal, I don't really mind which colour it is, to be fair.
Excellent, Tom. As ever, you've been brilliant. We'll link yourself, the NFU. We all must help Tom and his colleagues with the NFU, especially over the next 6 months. We need their professional expertise, guidance, and lobbying to create the change that we all want to see. And Tom, we look forward to seeing you at the Oxford Farming Conference in January. Tom, thank you very much.
Great to join you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Bye.